Hello, how you doing? I'm Craig Parkinson. You are listening to the Two Shot Podcast. Sit yourself down, pop the kettle on. We're going to have a nice old chat. Who's it with this week? I'm going to tell you right now. How the devil are you? Is everything okay? Yeah, you keeping good? Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it's Thursday, of course. It's the podcast. Thank you for being here. And lovely reception from Glenn Wool's episode last week. What a fella. So thank you for that. What we're going to do this week, it's episode 91. Well, different this week. We're going to do something different. We're going to have two shorter than normal episodes. We're going to release this one today, now, obviously. And then we're going to release another one on Sunday. And I'll explain everything as we go along. I'll try and keep this brief. So each year we get on the road and we go to Kendal Calling Festival in the beautiful Lowther Deer Park. And we see who's around and we try and record some podcasts. Obviously, these things need planning because everybody's on the bill. Sometimes the bands are coming in, they're doing their gig and they're buggering straight off because they've got something else because it's festival season and it's very, very busy. Who was I going to talk to? Well, I looked down the bill. I realised that we were going to be on Friday. And I saw that Reverend And The Makers were there. Now, I know John a little bit, obviously, because he's been on the podcast before. If you haven't, go back and listen to his episode. It's a cracker. But what was I going to do something different? I didn't want to sit down and talk about music. I wanted to talk about something else. And I'd never met Laura, who is his wife. So I thought, what about if we have a chat, all three of us together? Anyway, I sent an email to Laura. She said she'd love to. They were going to get there a bit earlier. And originally we were going to do it live at Tim Peake's Diner with an audience. Now, when we got there to set up, it seems that somebody had made a boo-boo and they double booked us because Mark Radcliffe and his electric band were setting up. So, because we're mobile, I said to John and Laura, I said, well, we're not going to do this there because we can't. Let's go and find a beautiful spot and we'll sit down in the grass and we'll record it. And that's what we did. We walked down past the woodlands into the lake, by the lake, and we got down to it. So it's lovely. I wanted to talk about, relationships within the band, and we talk about love and babies. And then Laura told me that this was the first interview that they'd ever done as husband and wife. So I was really chuffed that they came on and did it. And it's a really lovely natter. I think you're going to enjoy it. So, this is episode 91 of the Two Shot Podcast with the wonderful John and Laura McClure. Enjoy, and I'll see you at the end.
Mind me smoking?
No, of course I don't. Yes, John, I do, actually. Can you not?
Really offended.
Yeah? Can you just leave? I've got Nile Rodgers coming on at 6:10.
That's got to be a good
That's got to be like... I mean, I have this sometimes, like, there's your professional lad, and there's shit like this.
Can you use your microphone, John? This is all gold. This is podcast gold.
Aren't you buzzing? You must be buzzing. I'm
absolutely
interviewing you, but you must be buzzing, aren't you?
Well, I am, but, the thing is, it's a bit like with yourselves. I said, right, well, we'll have 20, 25, 30 minutes, because I was only given 20, 30 minutes for Nile before he went on stage, because, look, he's been around the block a few times, and he needs to look after the hitmaker and go and give the good times. So I went, right, I've got to restructure what I normally do, because I can't really... Oh, for God's sake, Laura, it's so unprofessional. Laura McClure is... What?
Come on.
Should we just listen to this phone call?
I don't know. I think he might be separate.
Okay, I'm sure that was podcast gold for everybody there.
He's in a good place, mate.
He's currently got our kids at the caravan, actually.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, with John's mum and dad.
He's cool Uncle Chris, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's a bit of a dude, so lads love him, so it's great.
Yeah.
So what I had to do was restructure the podcast, because normally I talk to people about their lives, and we sort of go back and we go through it, and we talk about the ups and downs and the failures, and we just sort of... But if I started that with Nile Rodgers, and I've got like 20 minutes. We wouldn't even get to primary school.
Next,
Do you know what I mean?
next Kendal Calling, wouldn't you?
know,
You
man.
know what I mean?
I know. I'd need 3 hours with him.
It was funny, we played at Tramlines and like, I think we're a very good live band, and somebody tweeted me saying, you were best, and I'm saying, listen, you can be best band in world, but he's got better songs than you. He just has. He's got 20 hits. He could just pull out at any moment.
Absolute bangers.
It blew my mind, and it had every single age group and nationality, and all. It was unbelievable.
It's universal,
Oh,
isn't it?
it's wonderful, man.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about bloody Nile Rodgers.
No,
We're here
but-
to talk about you two, and the fact that this is this really the first time that you've been
Ever.
interviewed as a...
First one.
Ever?
How come? Because I don't get that. I thought this would have been quite a selling point. A married couple in a band. They should.
Really. It's not
He's got enough to say for two, hasn't he? So
Well, I mean, come on, that is true. I'm just hoping you can pitch up, Laura. And
Do you know what gets on my nerves? And this
What?
is me. I'm not saying this to try and score points with Laura or whatever.
You
but
don't have to impress me, John. It's
no,
fine.
this is true. I honestly think this. A lot of people in media, they think if the girl's not the singer, she don't exist. And we get called a lad band a lot.
Do you?
All the time, yeah. And I'm thinking, as one of us founder members who's contributed heavily to every record we've ever made and heavily to the sound of the band,
Yeah.
it's as if she doesn't exist. As if she's like and it's even a lot of girls say it. Oh, they're a lad band, Reverend And The Makers. It's like, whoa.
it's changing, though. It's definitely changing. Like, I can even see in our crowd, like, I think women, and this sounds a little bit profound, but before the Me Too movement, I think women generally were nervous of going to, like, bouncy, aggressive gigs. Not like ours is aggressive, but it's
No,
like
certainly
it's like
not.
jump up and down party.
Yeah.
And I think women before the Me Too movement were nervous of, and other movements, but were nervous of coming into that situation and opening themselves up almost to being grabbed and not being able to say anything. Whereas now, like, and John always really promotes a really collective, all-together spirit in a gig.
Absolutely.
You know what it's like when you go out on a night out. There's a lot of girls there. It's a better night, isn't it? It's just a better vibe. When you go in somewhere and it's a bit cock-heavy, it's a bit like, don't like it.
Always,
innit?
because lads can just be dickheads.
Yeah.
I mean, look, girls can be dickheads as well, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to have a mix, isn't it?
Yeah. Mix of dickheads.
Let's face it. Look, a big mix of dickheads is always a good night. Because we can all be dickheads at times, and that's all right, but we've just got to admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But have you noticed a change, Laura? Like,
Yeah.
from a woman's perspective?
Yeah, and like people saying different things. I mean, I've had all sorts said to me, and shouted. It's definitely in the early days a lot of, get your rat out and all that from all.
Really?
Yeah, like, and you never really get that anymore. Not really. Very occasionally. I've had girls come up to me saying, like, asking me about John's cock.
You have not.
Oh, yeah, I've had all
you
sorts.
did give a glowing review, obviously. I hope so. I think you gave me a glowing testimony.
No, when you think, like, of a fantastic comeback, like, 20 minutes later.
All the time. Yeah, welcome to my world.
Yeah, at the time, I think I just turned around and said, that's the most rude thing anyone's ever asked me.
How dare you?
I turned really prudy and kind of, I've had all sorts
But,
said, but it doesn't happen so much now.
That's good that it doesn't happen. It's good that there's a change.
Yeah, but then still you get people like, oh, you're in the band.
Oh, like-
what do you do?
Oh, no.
You're in the band. Sorry, I didn't realise. I just had that yesterday. It's quite.
you?
Yeah, it's quite kind of.
The difficulty is that
Yeah.
Laura was in the band prior to us getting together, and he's a big part of what we do. But
Well, tell me about that, how that started.
the truth is that Laura and I went out with other people. This is 14 years ago, the origins of the band, and she got involved because she's a great musician and a great singer and all that, and we went on tour and fell in love, basically. This is my version of it anyway, and we fell in love, and unfortunately we were already with people, and that happens, doesn't it? And it was all a bit dramatic. We were together and not together, and
We used to call it Rev-enders.
Because
Like,
it was
all
so
of
dramatic.
all of the band. I mean, we were
Did they
really.
all know, all the rest of the band, or was it
yeah.
a secret thing?
It was like very Ross and Rachel, will they, won't they?
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Was
very
it
irritating.
Johnny and June, innit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eventually,
That's a better reference.
yeah, it is. let's use a cool reference. Let's not use a French reference. But no, listen. Then I fell in love, and ever since then, we've been together and been amazing. We've got 2 kids, but people think it's like a kind of one of them where I've got my girlfriend in band or something, and it's really rude, really. And
it's condescending.
Yeah, it is.
And were you ever worried, like at the start, that you getting together and falling in love would affect anything in the working relationship. Because what I'm saying is, like, maintaining any sort of relationship, even like, you know, me and Griff have a relationship, any relationship, when you work together, what if it blurs the lines of what you do?
I'm probably overly, if I were to be self-critical, overly candid with my words to Laura. So I speak to her in a more direct way than I might to anyone else in band. And that, if that is a negative thing, so like, no, don't do it like that, do it like that. I say...
Well, you're generally like that, though, aren't
No,
you? You're
but-
like that in the studio, you're like that...
Yeah, but you're never backwards or coming forwards, John.
No, but what I mean is, you know, like, you think about the way you talk to your partner is different to the way you talk to your colleagues,
Yeah.
innit? And sometimes, because I forget that we're also colleagues, and it can be difficult, but by and large, it's been sound.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's probably a bit annoying for John, because I tour manage it as well, and I need to ask sort of logistical questions, and you end up, of course, you don't do that in the 9 to 5 hours.
No.
You're like at 11 o'clock at night, oh, are you all right with that interview tomorrow at 10? Oh, right, oh, why'd you have to tell me now? You know, so we do have a bit of that, but I suppose that's just life, isn't
Well, that's
it?
just life and that's just
We
relationship.
were talking about it this morning, though, weren't we? Saying
Yeah.
we're really lucky that, like, although it's hard that we both do it, like in the same band, you know, we have to try and maintain that family life, and we're really blessed with grandparents being around
Who are
and
helping out.
who are helping out both sets. But it's really hard doing the festivals, and like, not like we're like rock stars, like having it up, getting
No, but
Larry,
you know.
but we're away from home.
Exactly.
We come back, the fridge is empty, and toys are all over the house, and we're like, oh, just
It's like
recovering.
you've landed off at Lunar Capsule, and then you've got to like change somebody's nappy, and whereas I think for a lot of musicians, there's someone at home, whether that's their husband or the wife or whoever, manning the fort while they're off doing the thing. When we get home, we've both been away, so it's like, it's a bit crazy for a
Right,
minute.
who's going down the supermarket and stocking up? You've got to get back to...
Well, Andrew
Yeah.
Innes from Primal Scream used to famously book himself into an hotel after he'd been on tour, round the corner from his family, and they'd come and have the tea with him for a week,
Yeah.
and see him a bit, but he'd not be at home,
Yeah.
so he'd kind of sort of like gradually descend into
It
civilization.
makes sense,
Yeah,
though.
it really does.
It's a
It's
really
great,
good
that, isn't it?
idea.
I think you should try that in some sort of way.
Like, yeah, book
Not
me
sure how
into
the grandparents would feel about that.
stick us in Hilton for a week.
Because that's what I was going to ask, like... Because you do a lot of touring. I feel like you forever...
Yeah, we're
you're having a
busy,
little
we're
break,
busy.
and then... When's the best of coming out now? What date?
September it's coming out, but October we're
October's the
touring.
and then
yeah.
you're touring. Is it hard being away from the kids?
The hardest
Yeah.
thing was when Laura were pregnant and we were on like a long tour with the Libertines. And like
How
Laura,
long, John?
like a month, but we came home in middle, but it were about a month, and Laura did a couple of dates, but then because she was pregnant, like she couldn't do them all because we already had one son at that time. So my mate filled in. Now we're away from like all of them, and it was just a bit like, this is hard. This.
I think the most we ever want to do is, for both of us, is 4 nights. That feels like a bit of a maximum at their age at this time,
yeah.
when we're both in the band together. So that's why if there's any longer stint, we're lucky, you know, we've got a dep that can cover me and I can stay at home with the kids. Obviously, John can't really be depped, so he has to be there. But
You make sure it gives you an insight into the elite sports people and the elite musicians, the level of self-sacrifice that is required to get to the very top of your game. Almost inevitably, you're going to knacker your personal life. Almost inevitably.
Well, the sacrifices all over the shop, isn't there? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that sometimes about actors, because some people go, "Oh, do you not fancy going over to America?" And, well, absolutely not. If someone said, "Right, you booked in for a series for like 5 years,"
when would you see your lad? You wouldn't,
it would
you?
never happen
Yeah.
because that's going to have a negative effect. Maybe not now, but in years to come. We go,
Yeah.
"Well, where were you during that
Yeah.
time?"
Yeah.
Always off doing some acting,
Which is why,
being
in
selfish.
a lot of ways, I think I've got it at a beautiful level. Me, I earn a living, I work with my wife, we're relatively successful, but in a kind of mid-table sort of sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're happy and
I'm
you're
happy,
creating
yeah.
and you're doing all that.
we
I know.
often say it, actually, because I think we went through a stage when, like, we were kind of, oh, we're missing out on these opportunities, and why aren't these things happening for us? But actually, looking at the long game, it's worked out perfectly, because we aren't away from our kids that long. They can go to one school. They're not travelling around the world. And for us, that is the best option.
My best mate from back in the day were Alex, and he's in Arctic, biggest band in, from Arctic Monkeys, in biggest band in world, arguably.
Yeah.
But I see the level of work and graft and dedication and sacrifice that goes into that, and it's intense, man. And I think, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, but they don't have a family.
It's
Everything changes when the children come into it, don't they? Did you find that when you first got pregnant, Laura?
Yeah, and I think when I was pregnant the first time, it felt like it wasn't happening. And we were doing like some really big gigs when I was like 7-8 months pregnant, and that was fine. But now that we've got 2, and
were you still performing when you were that?
Yeah, I've got a great picture actually with me with a massive bump
No
going
way.
through on
Awesome,
stage.
yeah, she looks really cool, man. It's amazing.
Oh, you've got to send it me, and we can put it on when this podcast comes out.
Because I was very like, I don't know if is it a bit weird? We've got there's quite a lot of young audience, like, do they really want us to be seeing a big mum like jumping about on stage? And then I was like, actually, it's really important that I do, because there aren't a lot
Tom
of...
Maddox, weren't it, who said it?
Yeah, it was actually. It was our monitor engineer at the time, Tom Maddox, and he was like, come on, like, as a feminist, you've got to do it.
That's
it's
inspiring for people.
It was really cool and all. I think everybody saw it and was just like, wow, look at her, she's having it. And just, she goes mad and all on stage, and she's like shaking her hair about. And
I know, because it's funny, because a couple of years ago, because we're at Kendal Calling now, and I know you're playing this afternoon, you were missed 2 years ago. Sometimes you think that people go, "Oh, what do you do in the band?" But I mean, it was great. We had a great time, didn't you? Well, I did anyway, because you shouted me out. Do you remember from stage?
Right.
And you weren't there, so there was an element of it missing. I thought
it does definitely change the dynamic when Laura's not there. Like, because the person who replaces her is another fella, so it becomes 5 boys in a band, and there's certain songs you can't really do it, and if you do it, you have to like put a sampler on for Laura's bit, and it don't really work really without Laura. So I think luckily.
Oh, this is already turned into a very romantic podcast.
Come on, babe. Oh, babe.
You see, now this is the thing. You need to do more interviews together, because this is really lovely.
Well, I think I like to do stuff with Laura, because I think people, if you see someone with a family, it's like when you meet somebody's mum and dad, you sort of can contextualise them a bit more.
Who they are, where they come from.
And I think when people meet Laura, they're like, oh, John makes a bit more sense, because he's not this like big loud dickhead. He's actually a human being, and you know what I mean? I think, so it's good. It's a good thing.
Did you ever think, Laura, like when you in the latter sort of stages of being pregnant, oh God, I'm going to be a mum now, and everything's going to change, and maybe I don't want to be doing that?
No,
because people worry, don't they, about what happens after the child?
I think with the second, I worried, because I worried whether we'd be able to, with the childcare and how it would work out. And our both sets of parents are amazing, but they're not 25 anymore, and understandably they have holidays and they go away, and so it does have to be managed quite carefully with 2. So I think with 1 I was less concerned.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, there was 2 sides to it. So one side of it was our first son was born at the end of November, and then we had a gig in January, and I sobbed the whole way.
We drove. We didn't go it down. Right? We said, well, all right, we'll stay all day, and we'll just go like an hour. We're only in Manchester at Victoria Warehouses. We'll just go an hour before.
Yeah.
And we'll go. A band will go and do sound check and set up and all that, and we'll just go to Manchester, get on stage, and I'll drive you back, and it'll only take an hour. But
there was a snowstorm, so I was panicking. We were going to get stuck in Manchester, and I wouldn't be able to get back. And I'm sat in there like pumping my boobs with, I've got milk flying everywhere.
Emotions flying everywhere.
It wasn't a pretty scene.
Driving out Snake, passing to Christie. Like, what subs like, I can't leave him. All that, But
then, I got months off with him where other parents don't get to do that.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I say. About doing what I do.
Well, it's fits and starts. It's feast or famine, isn't it?
You have that massive, intense period of being away. Hopefully not too long. But then it's not 9 to 5, so you've got all this. Like, I finished this job in another few weeks. I've got all summer off with him.
There you go.
And then he starts year 4 in September, and then I'm off. I can see him into year 4 and make sure he doesn't have a wobble.
Nice.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not rushing off the 9 to 5. So,
and I think other thing is you can't, once he's grown up and once our kids are grown up, them moments are precious. You're not going to get him again.
You can't get him back.
Richard Hawley always says this to me. Because he's apart from me and maybe like Tom Rowley, who plays with Arctic Monkeys in Sheffield, he's one who gets my life. Like, he's got loads of spare time, but then suddenly he's really busy. And his kids are a lot older, but he's always like keen to impress on me and Laura. Doesn't he? Always tells me and you that, doesn't he? He's like, make sure you give them babbies some attention and you're always with them and all that. And it's right, man, because you know what? You turn round, our kids starting school. It seems like 2 minutes ago we were just born, and I think it's gonna be 18. And them moments are they're precious, aren't they? You know
really
what I mean?
Important.
You want to be there, don't you?
Yeah.
But for you as parents and for them, because they'll remember it. You know, you forget.
Yeah.
They're so much more switched on than us sometimes.
I'll take being rich and famous, but let's get them through school, and then we can have a hit album in America, can't we? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look, you're not from Sheffield.
I'm not. No.
So how did
Busted.
you? I mean, it's quite clear. I mean, your accent's kind of dodgy. How did you two meet?
We met when I went to university in Leeds.
Yeah.
And John was going to college in teaching college at that point, weren't you?
That went well, didn't it?
That went well.
Lasted about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Nah, not for me.
And we met on our first night, my first night out in Leeds. It was, come out with us, a friend from Sheffield, and her boyfriend at the time was had been playing bass with John, and then so I met John and Ed. Was that there? Yeah, and Ed, the guitarist, on my first night in Sheffield, and then they kind of heard that I had been in a band at school and stuff, and they needed some female vocals, and that was it really. So I started. We were in another band together before Reverend And The Makers.
You and John?
Yeah, and Ed.
There were 8 of us, and 2, Alex from Arctic Monkeys, Matt Elders from Arctic Monkeys, and 2 lads who I hadn't seen for years, but we were absolutely rubbish, weren't we? We were rubbish, weren't we?
It wasn't the best.
Like, remember Pugwall? Remember that in the 80s? That, like, where they were like...
Orange Organics.
like my first band, one of them. Had a bongo player. Matt Elders played bongos for us.
Yeah, he did.
It was so bad.
Was you just not gelling?
We were trying to be funky, and it was just
not
there was
the
too
vibe.
many of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, then John and Ed ditched me, and they had another band.
What happened then? What
We
happened
had
with the
another
ditch?
band called 1984, which were like, we were trying to be Ganger for. We thought we were writing to post-punk. They were like, right, we don't, none of that female, we're not Human League anymore. We're not having that B-52s girly thing. No girls. It's like a all fellas. We're going to be really take ourselves dead seriously. Did that for a bit, and I'm like, this is boring, man. All best bands from Sheffield have got girls in it historically, haven't they? Pulp, Human League.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, we need to get Laura back. So we got Laura back, and it was more my thing then. Reverend, it become like more my thing, but it was still Ed, who's always been in every band I've ever done, because he's my best mate. And then Laura were coming down, and eventually like a band formed around this new project, and it kind of went from there, really, I guess, didn't it?
How did you feel about being asked back after being...
I don't think I was mardy about it,
Weren't
You'd
you?
think I would be, because that is the kind of thing that would make me a bit mardy, but
no one likes rejection.
I think, I think because I was at university at the time, and I had a lot going on, and so it just didn't really register. And then I remember, like, in my final year, and we were supporting Arctic Monkeys, and they were doing this incredible gig at Blackpool Ballroom. Empress Ballroom.
You know, that's where I'm from.
Right.
That's a beautiful spot, isn't it?
It's a
Incredible
legendary venue, because
It
at
is.
Rosa's gig,
Yeah, I know.
I've been excited all my life to play it. Go on.
So incredible gig, and so everyone's running around the corridors at this point going, oh my God, Arctic Monkeys are on fire tonight. This is their best gig ever. I'm sitting in our dressing room, sticking and pasting to make my portfolio for my final year, because it's due in the next day.
What were you doing at uni?
PR, it's really relevant to what I'm doing now.
I'm sure it all helps.
Yeah. And John, bless him, was there cutting circles for me, not watching this gig.
I was trying to woo about this, but it took me 2 years to woo Laura. She thought I would have, because I kind of put this in a bit of a slut, you know what I mean? So it took me a long time to persuade her that my affections for her weren't just physical ones, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Just wanting what you couldn't have.
As part of my wooing process, I cut and pasted a lot of shit for a uni project, basically.
And
John's still got
jumped in a
scars
reservoir.
on his feet, actually.
From what?
From walking home from my flat when I was saying, no, you can't stay here, you need to go back
She was
home.
like, she used to let me come and see her
Yeah.
right late at night, but then...
But we
like-
just hang out.
And then she'd make me go home to me. I was stopping at my mum's because I was skinned then, and they were on dole at this time, and I got no money for a taxi out. And I used to like walk home to my mum. Mum and dad lived right at north of Sheffield, on your way to Manchester, Barnsley, that way.
Yeah.
And used to take me like.
It's a good hour and a half walk.
So I used to do it regularly.
Yeah.
It were like. I were on road to Damascus, you know what I mean? Like it were like she's punishing me, but if I keep walking, then she's gonna. And she did. It worked.
See, this is you getting him back for the rejection of getting dumped out of the
There
band.
you go.
Deep, innit, that? There you go. Psyche doing on there, isn't it?
John, Laura, thanks so much.
Oh, bless
Thank
you.
you.
I enjoyed it, mate. It's been
You're
lovely.
both really lovely.
Should we just
Thank
hang out here? Should we just
Should we
sack
just-
off the gigs,
Let's sack
the
off the beer
festival?
and we'll just carry on talking for a few
Yeah.
hours. I don't mind.
Let's
Yeah.
talk and then go and see Nile Rodgers. That's the one.
We'll just do that.
That's the one, innit? Yeah.
Right, loads of love, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And another episode is done. What lovely people. Like, they're so genuine and warm, and they are welcome back anytime for much, much longer. In fact, Laura sent me a message saying how much they'd enjoyed it, and that we could have chatted for hours. So maybe we'll do that next time. But if you enjoyed that and you enjoyed their music, they are on tour soon. They're doing a best-of tour. It's going to be great. I want to say a big thank you to everybody that came up to myself and Griff at Kendal Calling Festival. We were only there Thursday, Friday recording the podcast, and it was very busy. And then it got very, very rainy. So for everybody who stuck it out, well done. You're much braver than me. Now, Sunday is episode 92. I wasn't going to tell you who it was then, but I am. It's a very different episode because I had to reformat what I normally do. And you'll understand why, and I'll tell you all on Sunday. And I'll tell you also how I managed to get the King of Funk, Mr. Nile Rodgers, to come and sit down and spend some time with me and a few hundred other people. So until Sunday, I've been Craig Parkinson, he's been producer Griff, and this has been the Two Shot Podcast. Cheers. The Two Shot Podcast is presented by me, Craig Parkinson, recorded and produced by Thomas Griffin for Splicing Block. Our brilliant music is courtesy of Then Thickens. Cheers.